Whitebird.
Here.
Markham.
Here.
I'll meet this.
Cavell is absent with notice. Spiz.
Here.
Miller.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. Please stand. So first, I'd like to have a moment of silence for Oxford schools and the families. Thank you. Pledge allegiance
To the flag.
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right. We have the approval of the minutes.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Charles. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Ayes have it. We have the approval of the agenda. Moved by Commissioner Charles, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Or say all in favor, or anybody says nay, I should say that. I have it. Now we come to the public comment. Anyone from the public here want to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Good morning. Newly elected mayor of Pontiac.
Well, thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to you this morning, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. As you mentioned, Mr. Chair, I'm newly elected to be mayor of Pontiac. I have not yet taken office yet. That won't occur until January 4th. But it's an honor to be with you this morning nonetheless. And I wanted to reach out this morning and be with you to speak about item 9F on your agenda this morning, that is about appropriating funding, some matching funding for a skate park in Pontiac. I appreciate you putting that on the agenda this morning. This is a matter that is potentially hugely positively impactful to people in the city of Pontiac and beyond. We do not have sufficient recreation opportunities for our young people in the city of Pontiac. Pontiac, of course, is an economically distressed community. The young people in our community desperately need constructive activities to do. That's important both in terms of their individual development and their reaching their full potential in life. But it's also important in terms of keeping young people out of trouble and reducing crime in the community. And the city of Pontiac does not have a flush budget, and certainly any support from the county is much appreciated. I understand that the county is providing assistance for recreational opportunities to other communities in our county as well. And I'm here just to strongly voice my support for providing these matching funds for the city of Pontiac for the purpose of constructing the skate park. So thank you so much for the opportunity to be here with each and every one of you. And I really appreciate your consideration of approving this funding for the city of Pontiac and especially for our young people. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioner Charles.
Yeah, because I feel it needs to be stated that we made a special accommodation to hear from Mayor Grimo via the web, because I know that public comment, as far as I know, is not available for those joining virtually.
Yeah. Well, so he was gonna speak on the when it came up. So instead of changing the agenda around,
Yeah.
just made it this way, just so it's easier for everybody to read the agenda. But I appreciate that comment.
And thank you, Commissioner Charles. I was not aware that this was a special accommodation for me. It was simply suggested that I participate this way. So in that case, I want to particularly thank all of you for the special accommodation. So thank you for mentioning that.
Thank you. So any other public comment? Any other public comment? Hearing none. I just have to say, I know it's emotional for a lot of everybody. Very distraught about what happened yesterday. I know it affects Commissioner Spiz more, but no family ever wants to hear that situation. So I can't hold the emotion in. It's affected our family. So just got to get that out there. Thank you. So there's no other public comment. We'll call it closed. Now we have communications. No communications. Then we have the consent agenda. We have 3 items on the consent agenda. Resolution fiscal year 2022, appropriation for City of South Lyon for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Project number 56331. Resolution fiscal year 2022, appropriation with the Charter Township of Commerce for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Project number 56572. And resolution fiscal year 2022 appropriation with Charter Township of White Lake for Tri-Party Road Improvement Program Project number 565722. Moved by Commissioner Wiper, seconded by Commissioner Markham. Any discussion? Commissioner Markham.
I'll be real quick. I just want to remind everybody that this is a partnership between the Road Commission, the Board of Commissioners, and the local communities who are allowed to pick the project themselves that they want help with funding. And I think it's a really terrific program. This shows that there's 3 communities. They're all on the west side of the county happens today, but all 63 of our communities at one time or another have the ability to do this. And I think it's a great program to help the roads all across our county, which everybody needs. So that's my comment. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments, discussion? Hear none. Call the roll, please.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Next, we go to the regular agenda. First agenda item is contract extension with Limbach Company LLC for building management system replacement project. Need a move by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Markham. Looks like we have Mr. Murphy here today.
Good morning, Commissioner. I think Josh is joining us. Steve
morning.
Foster, our project engineer, and I think Scott Guzzi from purchasing here is available as well. So the resolution that you have in front of you is for a contract extension for that very large project that every year we bring to the board as part of our CIP plan, requesting funds to update and upgrade our building management system. The current contract is at the 5-year limit. We like to continue moving forward with this project. It was slated as 5 years ago as probably somewhere between a 5 and 8 year project. We have like 3 years left with 2 years worth of warranty work to do. And it just makes sense to continue forward with Limbach out of Pontiac. The associated dollars with that contract was presented. So we're seeking approval to move forward with that today, and we're happily answer any questions that you may have.
Sorry.
Commissioner Wiper.
Joe, it's in the package, it'd be detrimental to start with a new company. I mean, there's a reason we're not going to go out to bid on this. It would absolutely be detrimental to start over.
Detrimental, time ineffective, and very costly is what we're expecting. And we haven't had any problems with the current contractor. That's why every year we bring each phase to you to move forward. So if we had an issue at that, that we would have to address and we'd have to go out in a different direction, we'd do it at that time.
Thank you.
Any other discussion?
Yes.
Commissioner Charles. Oh, there it is. I see. Okay.
Morning, gentlemen, and wanted to just check in with you guys as far as the November 30th, 2021 contract expiration date, which I think is today? Yesterday? Thank you.
Correct.
It's just in terms of planning and knowing this was on the horizon, are there any takeaways that we have so that perhaps it wouldn't have gotten to an expiration point, or is that kind of how it moves along?
I think there was some learning curves that were done here, that it was thought of that this was a long-term project, that each year that when we went to the board, that was sufficient enough to do it. And then there were some discussions whether it needed to come in as an exception report or a resolution. So there was some internal discussions with the purchasing department and which is the best way to do it, and finding out what was really required took a little bit of timing on that. So that's why there was a delay, and with the holidays and everything. So we apologize for that.
Okay, so
I think
that's noted for the future, and it looks like 2026 is theoretically the extent of how long this contract would be. Would it serve our purposes, since it doesn't go through the full board, if it passes here for another week or so, just to make sure it's 5 years and not encroached upon? That would be one concern. And then finally, just simply $528,000 each year, roughly, give or take here or there, for, it looks like controls equipment installation, materials, and labor. Do we look for a percentage of labor that doesn't exceed some industry standard where, when you go get your car serviced, a lot of the ticket is based on labor? Just curious if we have any processes in place where we keep our minds on a certain percent between labor and supplies. That makes sense? And if not, maybe it's something to consider. I mean, again, these are good conversations to have.
Good morning, everyone. I'd like to answer that one for everyone. Each year with each phase, we are in advance planning for the next phase, oftentimes 6 months plus in advance. So it takes a lot of effort between design engineers and our implementer to coordinate what is the next phase in the scope of work. So with each phase, the labor and material is going to fluctuate based on the scope of work.
So with that in mind, Mr. Chair, hope it's okay, does that mean that this is a not to exceed number, not to exceed $528,000 for the year 2022?
That is correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any other discussion? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm not even on the agenda. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just have a quick question. Can you explain why it's, I'm going to say cheaper, even though that's not the word I want to use, to bid it this way versus doing it project by project by project each year?
I would say that in all reality, it's all based on process, meaning, as I mentioned, we look at the next phase of scope out ahead of time. And the reason why this is more cost effective is having a single implementer. There's lessons learned with every phase that we move forward in. And they have extensive experience with our existing buildings. So thus, this process provides the most benefit, cost effectiveness, etc.
Commissioners, I have a couple of comments, if I may, when it's my turn.
Yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
So I'll just add to that in that I'll provide a little bit more background detail here. So our existing or previous building management system is, an older, antiquated system, and it was determined that it would be in our best interest to replace that system with a new system. And when we did so, I'm sure everybody will agree that the best way to do that is to look at the county as a whole, right? And put the entire county on the same system. So this, this contractor, this contract, this project was meant right out of the gate to be a very long-term project in order for us to get through all the phases of that project. And like Steve and Joe mentioned, because it was a larger contract and because it was going to take so many years, we just agreed to, come to the board with an update and get your approval to move forward with this. So it's not that we're, like rebidding every year. It's really just to get your blessing to extend or to continue with with the large project so that we can take care of the whole campus. The other comment I wanted to make too, Joe had mentioned that there were some lessons learned on our side as far as, the timing of this. But I also wanted to mention too that, this is one of the contracts that was flagged by the Board of Commissioners at the 11th hour. So we, months ago were prepared to come to you with, asking for approval to continue with this project, but because it was, I believe that there was maybe like a dozen or so contracts countywide that the board wanted to get, I guess, a little bit more information on. So we had to go through that process before we could get to this point. So that caused some delays as well.
Thank you. Any other discussion?
Well, I'd like to discuss with the commissioners that I'm not really pleased with the 5-year. I'm not pleased with I'm pleased with the effort that's been put out, so this is not on the executive side or anything. But just as far as being good stewards of the taxpayer dollar, and I've been involved in long-term contracts where you do come back each year to revisit, but are there any penalties? Maybe that's for the gentleman, but are there penalties if we decide, hey, just through 2023 perhaps, or in 2023 we decide we want to go with a different, or we want to take it out to bid? What are the penalties there, if anyone?
Well, I just like to answer your comment there is, so one being from the field and especially the HVAC area as well, is when you lock in a contract for multiple years is like you're guaranteeing the price and they're buying the equipment early, right? So as we know, is the influx of the cost of materials all over the map. So by 2024, something that we bought today could be double, right? So we are making sure we capture that savings there, and having somebody, when it's like something like this, it's almost like duty cycle. They're doing almost the same job on each building. So you're not having to educate on safety that we have or our policies, procedures. And I'm all for bidding out work. I mean, I'm 100% like get the fair bidder. But when it's a situation where it's like pretty much besides building design, like duty cycle structure, what they're doing this is where I would say that this is probably the smartest, best value and being the best steward of our money for this situation.
Correct. I want to add, but let me go ahead and add on that, because when this was originally bid out, this was the low responsible bidder. I believe, Steve, correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't had a price increase over the 5 years, and they were holding prices for, I believe, 2 more years before we may see any price increase on material or labor. So, I mean, there's definitely a benefit and a savings to the county there in the best interest of tax dollars. And then if we do have a problem, we have an out and there's no out penalty to get out of the contract. It's just following the proper notification process of terminating the contract.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, so if I may,
Yeah.
Good point by Joe that, our contracts, our purchasing rules allow us to get out of these contracts at any time. But I want to echo what Commissioner Miller had said. And, in our industry right now, we're experiencing some price increases as much as 40%. And many of the contractors are only agreeing to hold their prices for 7 days, which has been a real struggle for us. So as both Commissioner Miller mentioned and Joe Murphy and Steve Foster, this is, really in favor of the county, and I think that the most responsible way to manage our funding. If you were to take that aside, and the fact that they're going to hold their pricing for us, I would go back to what we talked about before, and that is this is one system, and it impacts all of our buildings. We need to have it in all of our buildings. If we would have had a large pile of money to do it all in one shot, all in a year or two period, then we would have simply just done that. But because we had to spread the funding out, it just has become a multiple year project. But again, from day one, it has always been, one project that will take several years for us to complete. And, we entered into a contract with, the company that that was the lowest responsible bidder, and that we, partnered with to see us through to the end of this project. And I will also echo what Mr. Miller said too. Our group is very much in favor of bidding and in giving opportunities to other bidders. And in almost all cases we do that. I think this is just a situation here where because of the system and the consistency and the cost benefit to the county, I think this one makes sense for sure.
Thank you. I know, Mr. Foster, you were going to say something?
I think these guys handled it for me.
Okay.
Thank you.
Commissioner Charles, you have something else? Oh.
No.
And I would do say, I do appreciate the 3% increase on the labor cost, because that, whatever contract they're in with their labor costs, it goes up, right? I do have a question. So if there is an increase over the dollar amount that's here, does that come back as an ask to the board, or how is that going to work?
I would like to, again, start from the beginning. And Limbach, the implementation provider, has locked their contract in from day one for 5 years at a fixed rate. They've been gracious in locking it in for 2 more years. And this is only we're scheduled to be completed in 3.
Yeah.
With a 3% increase. And that's largely driven due to their obligations to the union contracts that they have. So they're obligated to increase their rates based on that contract, and they've not done that until this date where their profitability is challenged. So moving forward after that, we obviously can renegotiate and go from there.
Thank you.
And to answer your question, Commissioner Miller, if for some reason there was a scope change or something that impacted that not to exceed amount, yes, we would come back to the board to ask for approval for additional funding if we needed it.
Thank you. Thank you. Any other discussion? Hearing none. You gentlemen, anything else you want to add? All right. I'll call the vote, please.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries. Thank you, gentlemen. Next agenda item we have is resolution approval and acceptance of a second amendment for the sublease agreement with Easter Seals Michigan Incorporated and Oakland County. Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Markham. Commissioner Markham? All right. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Commissioners. Paul Dacos, Property Specialist with Facilities. We're coming to today with the resolution to renew a lease. It's actually a sublease. So when we look at, we've worked with the health department in the past for this WIC location. They've been there a long time, and they've been in this building since 2017. At that time, we had a 3-year lease. Last year for COVID, we were only able to, after that termination, go 1 more year. But now the good news is this is a 5-year sublease. So I think I'd be speaking on behalf of the health department. They're happy with this location. Everything for working within that community is a good location, and working with the partner Easter Seals, which has the lease to the building, they provided enough information for us to work up a 5-year sublease. So It also stays, the rent stays the same for the entire 5 years. So it's a pretty good deal as far as leases or subleases go. And I know the health department's happy with that location. So we'd like to approve this, have you approve this resolution for this sublease. Thank you.
Thank you. Any discussion? Seeing none, there's one thing I say is I do see in here, which is, like I said, that you get the guaranteed lease per month payment, because as we know, things are going up in the industry every day. They don't even give a 7-day guarantee on that one, Mr. Joss over there. And also that I see that the utilities are included as well, which is a nice factor too. So I don't have any other discussion. If we hear anything else, we'll call the, you got something, Commissioner Charles?
No.
Oh, sorry, okay. Call the roll, please.
Five yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next agenda item is contract authorize Oakland County, Oakland Township Water Supply System Improvement Bond Series 2022. Commissioner Spitz moves it, seconded by Commissioner Charles. Good morning.
Morning, Commissioners. With me today, I have Steve Burke, MSCI, our financial advisor, and Laura Bass from Dickinson Wright. So we're here on behalf of Oakland Township and Commissioner Nash for two things. One is to have the county approve the Act 342 agreement, which will then allow Commissioner Nash to execute the 342 agreement with Oakland Township, which they adopted on, I think it was October 27th. It's in the packet. And also to pledge the full faith and credit of the county to help us sell bonds for this project. And we're asking for $6 million of that pledge. And similar to the prior conversation about material costs that are going all over the map, our current estimate is $5.4 million, but the steel prices are only going to be held for a certain amount of time and they're fluctuating. So we're asking for a ceiling of $6 million. If the project were to come above the 5.4 estimate, we will go back to Oakland Township for their approval. This is 100% Oakland Township funds on this project paying for it. A little backdrop, the DEQ actually is forcing Oakland Township to build a storage tank, and I believe had threatened or had actually stopped them from any building permits until this tank was constructed. They subsequently believe that from them because they signed a permit with the DEQ saying they're going to build this tank. I believe there's roughly 700 plus residents this tank affects, and it's going to provide steadier flow for the system and also increased fire protection. So it's part of the system of Oakland Township.
All right.
If there's any questions, I'd be happy to answer any.
Any discussion?
Not for me.
Commissioner Weiper. Go ahead.
This could be for Steve Burke. How's the bond market? How's this sale good looking?
Hi, Commissioner Stephen Burke, MFCI. So interest rates are continuing to be low. Short-term rates have come up quite a bit here with inflationary pressures and the Fed continuing to look at tapering. Yesterday, the Fed communicated that the taper may happen faster than previously communicated. So, I think at some point rates are going to go up, but we're still looking at, if we sold these today, somewhere in the 2.25% range on the interest rate. So I think if you look at this on a long-term basis, we're still borrowing money at extremely low rates, compared to where we were 10, 20 years ago.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Hear none. Call the roll, please.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you. Next agenda.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys, gentlemen and ladies. Next agenda item, we have resolution Oakland County invasive moth. Is it Lamartra?
Next one.
Oh, did I skip one? I'm so sorry, I did skip one. That's because, yeah, sorry about that. Approval of the interlocal agreement between the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority and City of Novi Corridor Improvement Authority for the, is it Circa? Did I say that right? Sakura Novi Brownfield Project. Need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Markham, second by Commissioner Wiper. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is an interlocal agreement between Oakland County's BRA and City of Novi's Corridor Improvement Authority, or CIA. We need this as part of the Sakura Brownfield project, which was passed by the Board of Commissioners back on October 28th. What this interlocal does is allows the Brownfield Authority to be the first claim or first capture of the tax increment financing. Currently, as it stands now, the CIA was created first, so they have the first claim. But with this interlocal agreement, it'll allow that to be passed through to the Oakland County BRA for the course of the Brownfield plan. And once the Brownfield plan is complete, the captured TIF dollars goes back to the Corridor Improvement Authority. I'd just like to point out this was the Corporation Council worked on the interlocal agreement with the City of Novi's attorneys. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any discussion? Commissioner Markham.
Yeah, thank you. Good morning, Mr. Hanson.
Good morning.
So I read this 3 times last night, trying to make sure I understood how the money flows. So the Corridor Improvement Authority has been capturing taxes now for 4 years. It started in 2017. And this project, you're going to capture the taxes on this project only. It's not taxes from anywhere else in the corridor. It's just this project. Is that correct?
Correct. That's correct.
And if my questions sound naive, please bear with me, because I just want to make sure I understand how this flows.
No worries.
Okay, so they have that money. They're going to give it to the Brownfield Authority. Is that correct?
Yeah, it passes through to so when they capture it, it'll go to the Brownfield Authority instead of being deposited into the CIA account, correct?
Okay, so then who does the work and how does the money get dispersed to them to clear the Brownfield?
Sure. So the City of Novi's treasurer will capture the TIF dollar capture on those parcels. And they'll deliver a check to myself with the BRA as the staff person for the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. So it's up to me to track, and along with our fiscal department, to track and to just as far as our admin fee, and also to reimburse the developer. So that most of the work is on myself.
Okay, so the developer is actually going to do the work of cleaning up the property, and you're going to pay them out of the Brownfield funds to do that?
Correct. They
after it's done, after it's completed.
Depending on how long it takes, if they turn in a reimbursement request, which outlines basically what they've done out there with invoices and paychecks, we could take to the OCBRA and get that approval. So it could be during the process, or it could be at the very end. It depends on when they turn in their reimbursement requests.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for your explanation.
You're very welcome.
Is there any other discussion? Commissioner Wiper.
Sorry, I don't know who to speak.
That's okay. We're old school
Just
here.
to follow up with that, Brad, so is it just you reviewing? So let's say, just hypothetically, let's say invoices and paychecks and things comes in, I mean, this is a big project.
Yeah.
A bill or statements come in for $500,000. And so,
sure.
Is it just you sitting there saying, hey, that looks good to me? Or does somebody look and say, hey, they really did do all this work and that's legit? I mean, is there a committee? How's it work mechanically?
Sure. No, I don't want all that power in my hand, right? Trust me. I'll do when the reimbursement request comes in first, I'll do initial review, see if there's anything low-hanging fruits that I just can point to and say, hey, you need to include this. But at that point, I send it out to a third-party reviewer, which is an environmental consultant firm that we have through the Oakland County Purchasing. We have 4 pre-approved consultants who I can send the work to. and they review every single document, make sure all the invoices are eligible. Just because they sent an invoice doesn't mean the work they did was eligible under the brownfield plan. So that's all vetted. And then make sure that there's cancel check or just a proof that there was payment for the invoices. And at that point, they'll put together a memo saying this is what's approved, this is what's not approved. They can also work with, if there's a lot of items that they have questions about, they'll work with the developer and make sure they have everything they need to make that determination. And so once we get that summary or recommendation from our third-party consultant, we go to the Oakland County BRA board to get their final approval to reimburse for the reimbursement request.
Thank you.
All right, any other discussion? I am not seeing any speakers. All right, call the roll, please.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, commissioners.
All right, now we'll go to the next agenda item, resolution, Oakland County invasive moth, is it Lemaitre? I don't know how you say that.
Yeah, Lemaitre disparate.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah.
Program. We need a motion. Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Wiper. Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. For those of you that haven't met me yet, my name is Mike Keys. I'm one of the newest members of the BOC team. I'm joined by Ed Scott, the director of Oakland Macomb MSU Extension. And we are here today to present a resolution to give the EDI committee the authority and authorization to create a subcommittee and get access to the $250,000 that this board has already set aside for a invasive moth program. Just for a note, this was one of the first tasks that I was assigned with by Commissioner Spiz and Gershenson in joining the BOC team. And in talking with their local communities and answering some of those phone calls, can see that it's a really needed program here in the county. And so I'll turn it over to Ed if he wants to introduce himself and say a few words, but then also we won't steal it away from Commissioner Spiz to talk a little bit about why they brought the resolution forward.
Sure. My name is Edward Scott. As Mike said, I believe I've spoken in front of just about all of you at some point over the last several years. So it's good to be here. It's good to see you all again. We are, simply looking at trying to help Oakland County manage its invasive moth program. We have a very successful program in a neighboring county that we've undertaken for the last 35 years or so. And we saw an opportunity to possibly replicate that in a way that would help Oakland residents. And so Commissioner Spiz approached us. So I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, gentlemen. This is a program which I think I've presented a few times in front of not only this committee, but in front of the Board of Commissioners. It's a much-needed program. A lot of the communities, not only in my district, but many of the districts around the county have come out, especially last year, with the invasive moth that's been around destroying large slots of land. So this is a program we have been looking to put in place for the last couple months. And Mike, I appreciate your support and helping to drive this to get done, and Marcia's support and helping to get this done also. It's a much needed program, and it's something I'm eager to get moving forward, so I thank you all.
Commissioner Markham.
Thank you. I'll start first by saying it's good to see you. And I really trust Michigan State Extension when it comes to environmental issues. So I'm glad you're part of this whole process. My question relates to, we're going to be targeting this gypsy moth population. How about the rest of the flora and fauna and, the other insects and everything in the area? Does this target the gypsy moth specifically, or is it kind of wide-ranging?
No, so the ultimate goal of this program is to implement a spray, an aerial spray. I won't call it a chemical. The substance that's used is a naturally occurring bacteria that's found in topsoil that at a specific point in the moth's life cycle is toxic to it and causes it to die off. It does not affect other insects, birds, other animals. It's not toxic to people or pets or anything like that. So no, there should not be any other effect on other animals.
Oh, that's a great answer, and isn't science wonderful? Thank you.
Commissioner Wiper?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm getting a lot of calls on this too, out in Milford and Lyon Township. It was a bad year for the moths. So in my research, it seems like the timing is you've got to get them do this early in the spring or fall. So is our timing good so that this will be in place for spring?
Yeah, and actually, we've already started some of the work. So the actual aerial spray happens in the spring.
Okay.
But that is all based on survey work that's actually happening right now as we speak. We've held a couple of training exercises for municipalities to send staff to learn how to survey for the moth. And so we're actually in the process, as we speak, of identifying acreage that needs to be sprayed so that we can hit the right places in the springtime. And you're correct, it's a very small window in the spring when the caterpillars are at a certain size in their life cycle that the spray is effective. Outside of that, and it's not, they become immune to it.
And just to follow up on that survey, are you contacting all the CVTs, or is it your field survey? Is it?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both. We have a couple of staff who are experienced surveyors, and the way that our plan is working is we're asking for CVTs to provide, at least one staff person, preferably a forester or a Parks and Rec or someone in the natural resources field that we can provide this training to. And, they'll go out into their communities, and I won't get into all the, the technicalities of it, but they'll look for signs of gypsy moth. We will verify those findings, and then we'll come back to the CVT and say, this is how much of this invasive moth that, you found. This either meets or does not meet the threshold for spray, and we make that recommendation. And then it's up to the CVTs to allocate their own funds to pay for the spray, and the dollars that have been set aside will be helped to cost match with those who need it.
And just follow up with one, but I appreciate it.
please.
So a lot of the CVTs don't have a forest or that kind of staff. So can they get data from how many complaints they've had, or if they're tracking that?
Yeah, so we're also tracking complaints. I guess the answer is twofold. If they don't have, forester, many of them are very small, they may not have a person on staff, that's okay. We would just prefer that they send a dedicated staff member. Our preference is someone with that type of experience, but if the CVT doesn't have that, as long as we're able to provide a dedicated staff member who we can train, we prefer staff member, not a volunteer. So that's kind of why the specificity is there. And so that's fine. We have also set up a phone line and an email address to capture, complaints from residents. If they want to reach out and say, look, I've got this on my property, they can reach out to us and provide, their location. If they're willing to have someone come onto their property to survey, we'll coordinate that. And then, we'll take it from there and work with the cities, villages, and townships to get the spray set up.
Yeah, you got the floor.
And just follow up, and lots of our communities have large park parcels and things, so they may already give you data on the parks in the invasion. When I drive through the metro park, it's loaded.
Yeah, not necessarily. If parks are noticing a moth infestation and they want to let us know, we'll happily take that. The focus of this program, though, is really on residential properties.
Okay.
So we really want the bulk of our efforts to go to where people are actually living. So those are the complaints that, if they come into, through one of our venues, those are the ones that we'll want to reach out and investigate.
Thank you very much.
All right. Any other discussion? I have two quick ones. Says prior state certified exterminator. Let's go a couple questions. So he mentions the parks. So would these moths be like, and I'll use cockroaches as an example. I used to service the city of Detroit, and one house would bomb their house or get service done. So the cockroaches would go over here. As soon as this was clean, now you got two houses, right? So if a park has a situation and they don't take care of it, could it potentially come back into that area, right?
So I'll preface my answer to that question with, I am not an entomology expert. Based on my work with the staff who have run this program, what I've been told is, let's say a given amount of acreage is sprayed, in 2022, right?
Yeah.
It's very unlikely that same acreage would need to be sprayed in 2023.
Okay.
It does happen, but it's very rare. but it is likely that acreage right next to it might need to be sprayed in 2023.
All right. And then the next question I have is, so you mentioned sprayed in spring in the areas that need it. So are these caterpillars only caterpillars in spring, or is there different life cycles? I don't know about moths, that's why I asked.
Yeah, and again, I'm not an entomology expert, but it's when they hatch and when they are a specific size in their life cycle. When the caterpillar is a specific size in its life cycle, that is the time to spray, because that's when the spray will be effective. Before that or after that, and it's a very small window, the spray is not effective.
Well, I understand that, so I guess I should ask it a better way is, if there's a potential these caterpillars are, like, say they're born in summer, right?
Yeah.
Would that spray that you already sprayed that's still there stay, or is it you'd have to do it again if that happened?
No, that's not how it works. So they all hatch
That's all,
at
yeah.
a given time.
Okay.
Yeah, so the spray that happens in the springtime would address the issue for the rest of the year.
Perfect,
Yeah.
thank you. That's all I have.
Sure.
Oh, Commissioner Markham.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. How do we plan to communicate this to the residents? Because if I'm out there on a plane flying overhead, dropping stuff on my neighborhood today, I want to know what the heck is going on.
Of course, yeah. So that's a great question, and that's part of, I guess, the service we provide. So, again, I didn't want to go into kind of the nuts and bolts, but along the way, right? So we work with the CVTs and say, you've got this issue, you need to get the spray. They agree, they allocate funds to spray, we're helping with the cost match. So the next piece of that is we notify residents. So we send letters to people's homes, letting them know that the spray is happening, what day it's happening, what the substance is that's being sprayed, and providing information about that. It's safe to be outside. If it happens to be a spray day, most people, I think, would prefer to be inside or away from the property, of course, but we communicate with the residents.
Good, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just add to, just because I know here to Commissioner Gershenson, is we've talked a lot about the spraying, but those communities that maybe don't meet the threshold for spraying will also have other opportunities to apply for funding. So whether that be to get materials like burlap and host trainings in the community to come up with ways to mitigate the spread of the moth and the caterpillars without having to spray. So that'll be an added component to this program.
Excellent, thank you. Any other discussion? Hear none, call the roll, please.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Mr. Keys, one thing, it's the subcommittee, what's that going to be made up of?
The EDI committee, Commissioner Spitzer.
Yeah, I guess it would be up to us to determine.
Okay,
Before that subcommittee.
I meant to ask that question, but I was caught up in my old license days, so. Thank you.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you. So now we have the next agenda item, which is resolution appropriation of American Rescue Plan Act, local fiscal recovery funds for Pontiac Skate Park matching grants. So we probably have to
I'll move it.
move by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Charles. All right, well, I'm the presenter, so I don't know if
Who's the vice chair?
you are, so you, yeah, so you can run the meeting?
Yep.
Sure.
All right. I'll go down into the hot seat.
Welcome, Mr. Miller. I believe you're here to discuss the appropriation of American Rescue Plan Act, local fiscal recovery funds for Pontiac Skate Park matching grant. Welcome.
Thank you for allowing me to speak at this committee. So this is something, for me, that's near and dear. I grew up skateboarding, and it's an opportunity for youth. With this Ralph C. Wilson grant and the Build to Play program, an opportunity for youth to be involved in the building of the skate park. It gives them ownership. It gets, pretty much gets kids off the street and gives them something to do, right? And it's a lower cost. It's, it's not like they have to pay to go somewhere, or they have to have a ride to go. Typically, where these are built are in areas where it's heavily community with a lot of youth and children, even adults. Like, Farmington, where I live, we have the older guys, they have a name, I forget what they call it, but they're always there 8 in the morning before the kids come, right? Because they still living out their days back in the 80s and the swimming pool days, right? So this is something that was brought to me, and an idea that I had, us with the ARP money, use this, it'll be a 50-50 match, so the Ralph C. Wilson grant is they'll match $250,000. So we would match whatever community, so this one being Pontiac, so at 500,000 total, we would match 125, right? The county would. Then the Pontiac, there's a community involvement too, right? So Pontiac is on the hook for the other 125, but if the community wants to get some involvement, they can help Pontiac, right? So Pontiac may not pay the 125 because the community involvement raised money, right? But ours would be fixed, right? So there isn't any back and forth, because we want to make sure we have a clear plan across the board, because we want to make sure there's other opportunities for other communities to do this. And then let me see what else I got here. Oh, and we also want to start a subcommittee to make sure, because there was skateboard professionals in the area that either have skate shops or been involved with the ones built around Oakland County. So we know, like, they'll meet with the communities, have somebody go to the meetings, make sure the building's being right, make sure that it's quality, right? Make sure there's any questions that we have for them, they can get to us, because I know we have a lot of different avenues here, right? That we have professions. So that's, I'll open it for questions now.
Any questions, commissioners? Mr. Spiz.
Just a quick question. Is it only going to be focused as a skate park? Because I know there's other types of activities that a skate park can be used for. You know, in some cases I've seen BMX bikes or other different types of activities, I guess I'll call them, that can be used for the skate park. Or is it going to be solely just for skateboarding?
This will be solely skateboarding. One thing that we found is if you have a skate park that it allows BMX biking, like say a concrete, we call it a table, right? You're grinding on, they call it, is with the pegs on skate, the BMX guys do that as well. It actually, chips the concrete away, so you're doing more upkeep and maintenance, right? When you're doing, like for skateboarding, the grinding, it's actually put wax on that table corner, and then so it's like a smooth surface. So the pounding from bikes actually like deteriorates. So if we want to look at making it a BMX too, we might have to look at different funding. But I know the Ralph C. Wilson grant is only for skateboarding.
Okay.
But I mean, we're open to beefing it up, of course, right?
Commissioner.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have two questions. One is they haven't finalized a location, is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And who is studying that? Is that the city, or is that the Ralph Wilson group, or who's studying where it should go in the city of Pontiac?
That's the city of Pontiac.
Okay. That's the right people to be doing
Yep.
that. And then my other question is timing. What are we looking at? Say we'll give the $125,000, and then Pontiac's ready to do that, and Ralph Wilson is. Does this mean we'll be building a skate park next summer?
Fortunately for us, there's a private, like a bunch of youth got together, started this, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they already were approved for the grant.
Okay.
Right, so they already did the process, so the process has already started. The groundbreaking will happen next year, because as soon as like the money got certified, like we approved it, City of Pontiac approved it, so then Ralph C. Wilson's like, okay, you guys are serious about the grant, we'll give it to you. So now they're in the design phase, right? They'll find a location. So probably next spring, next summer, you'll see groundbreaking.
Good. Then last thing I want to be clear on is these are ARPA funds, and this qualifies for ARPA funds because ARPA is looking to fund recreation in underserved areas.
Correct.
Okay. So it qualifies, and we've looked at that. We've had our ARPA
Yes.
consultants take a look at that, and they agree that this is a legitimate expense.
That's correct, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Appropriate questions coming from the Chair of Finance.
Correct.
My questions, I'll just throw them all at you at once and you can take what comes up. But you said there was going to be an ad hoc committee coming out of EDI, or is that from our last
We'll do it, like, we'll put together a subcommittee.
subcommittee? And so in that subcommittee, they would talk about like how the ORV Park has a Facebook group, any partnering with Oakland County Parks, for example. I feel like that's a natural potential collaboration there. Naturally, especially off of our last 48 hours, security is present of mind, of course.
So with the Ralph C. Wilson grant, these are actually open to public, right? So it's like a city park that you would just go to. Right? Anything that's fenced, because I know, like, I just gave example, Farmington Hills did one, and it's fenced off, so that wasn't part of the grant. So that we had a gentleman, Riley, bless his soul, he paid for it solely. It's Riley Skate Park. But they don't want any admissions charged. They don't want any, fences up there. It's like free. They want it welcoming, right? Because that welcomes the community. And also it's like for like you mentioned, the underserved, right? So we want to make sure we give them the opportunity without having a cost or a deterrent. And security would be like, if it's in a neighborhood, right? And the neighborhood takes pride in this piece of, what do you say, like park, I guess you would say, that they would, be the security. And I'm sure the local, sheriffs, police force would be driving by like they do every park in the communities.
So my last question, and maybe the most important, is when do we get to meet Tony Hawk?
Well, hopefully, because through this will be the first of its kind, right?
Yeah.
We'll be the first there's people that talked about it in different states, but have not done it. So this will be there'll be some nationally publicity through the Ralph C. Wilson and the pay to play.
Okay.
So hopefully, that's a potential where he come. The last time Tony Hawk was here was in Farmington Hills, and through that I found out they say his wife's actually from Bloomfield Hills, so he comes here often. And he goes to different skate parks just randomly without saying, so there's a potentially he may show up. You never know. And we'll ask, if that could happen, being this is our first, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll definitely do that.
Any other questions, commissioners? I believe we are prepared to prompt the vote.
She's getting power mad over there.
Yes. You'll have to
Voting twice.
You have 5 yeas, 0 nays.
Motion carries. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for taking that into consideration and passing that. So now we'll have our next agenda item is public comment. Anybody from the public would like to talk?
Yes, I guess I'm the only one that showed up today.
All right. When you're ready, we'll give you the 3 minutes and.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name's Catherine Kennedy. I'm from Lake Orion. And I actually first want to raise attention to those who need our support in Oxford. I attended the vigil at 7 o'clock last night at Lake Point Church. And a few of my comments is it was amazing the amount of support from the community that came forward very quickly. The place was packed. The church was huge, the lots were overfilled out into the streets. You could tell the love for the community was in full force. The sheriff department had done an exceptional, absolutely exceptional job managing this horrific crisis, in spite of the fact that the county has not been providing the kind of support and training they should have for the sheriff. But the sheriff, being the professional that he is, did not complain that his officers only get a mere $125 a year for training, as was disclosed yesterday. Also yesterday at Public Safety, I was thankful to see how much of the sheriff's budget had been restored. Thankfully, and kind of in odd timing, I also met all 4 of the dogs that were authorized yesterday. So it's a direct view of why those things were needed in the first place. Clearly, it's sad that this has to be a proof that we need this law support more than anything else in our community. What you need to understand is the entire community is crying inside. But we know we have the strength, and I know Mike's daughter actually attends that school. So we have to hold them all in prayer, and we have to live our lives as the community that we are. We're not racist. We don't hate each other. We love each other. And there's so much political nonsense that's been permeating our society and our nation that it's just despicable. And I pray that we all have the strength to reunite like we're supposed to. One nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pray for the families and give us all strength that our community can be stronger and not destroyed through this horrific act. It is indefensible, inexcusable, and there is no way that the criminals should be alleviated their accountability. Amen. God bless us all. Thank you.
Amen, thank you. Any other public comment? Seeing no other public comment, we have other business. Any other business out there? Not seeing any. And we'll call the committee closed at 10:39.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Tracy, good job on the voting today. Perfect.
Thank you. Everything
Without a
went